everybody, welcome back to my channel, Maker-in-Progress. Today I'm going to be making the next 6 meals in my series, 30 meals for 30 days, and this is where I show you what I made in real life for my family and a short tutorial on how to make it so that you guys can make it too if you want to. And I really want this content to be a combination of practical and fun and real life and authentic, and I hope that it's something that you guys enjoy as well. So first up, I have a rice with barbecue chicken. So if you guys remember, I did a slow cooked chicken in my previous video. Basically, I just made some rice to go with that. Then I took that chicken and I just sauteed it up with some barbecue sauce. And I think that this is a great tip for people who are really busy is to just make a big batch of meat or rice or pasta or whatever you're going to do. And then like maybe lightly season it. That way you can multi-purpose it for other meals as well. And this was really, really simple. And also, if you're not making rice in the Instant Pot, it is so much better that way. And I highly recommend that you try it as well. This was an easy meal, something that I could just put together pretty quickly, did not take long. Next up, I made meatloaf. So I'm going to season that with some salt, some garlic, um, pepper, really basic seasonings, honestly. And that's kind of my base for a lot of recipes. And then I used oregano in this one as well. I had 2 pounds of ground beef, and then I added some eggs to that as well to add that fat. And this mixture was pretty wet. So I just mix it up by hand, get it all together before I put it into the pan. Get it well combined if you can. It's not the easiest. I probably should have picked a bigger bowl, but here we are, and it still worked, and that's the good thing. All right, then get that into a bread loaf pan, get it all smushed and even. I did not have breadcrumbs, so I made breadcrumbs by literally crumbling up bread, and I just put it on top. Ideally, I would have mixed it up, but laziness sometimes I'm just like, let's just put it on top. I'll still get something. And after I did that, I also added some Parmesan cheese to the top and I re-seasoned. One tip is to over season. I think we tend to maybe not add enough, so just add more than you think you need. Then I made my sauce, which was coconut aminos, ketchup, honey mustard, and garlic. And you just add that on top after it's baked, which I baked this for 45 minutes at 425, and then add the sauce and just broil it. So these are my cast iron chicken thighs, and honestly, they are one of my family's favorite things to make. So really, I make them. My family eats them, but they're pretty easy. I do basic seasoning, salt, pepper, garlic, and also make sure you get the skin on bone-in thighs. And those are I honestly don't care for thighs without them. They just kind of taste icky without them, but I really like these thighs, and that should be saying something because I don't care for thighs otherwise. So get your cast iron hot. I add butter, and then I put that chicken in skin down so that you get that really crispy edge to it. And then I re-season the other side, salt, pepper, and garlic. And those are like my go-to seasonings, and they make a really good foundation for whatever you're going to do. Then I flipped them after a few minutes, get that nice and seared. So these are not going to be cooked fully on the stove. Then I added some whole garlic cloves, a whole garlic head of cloves into the pan, and I add some butter to the top of those thighs. I don't even know how much exactly that is, probably about 2 tablespoons for all of it. And just to get some extra oil in there and make them all yummy. They're really, really good. Then I stick them in the oven at 450 and I do that for 25 minutes to really finish baking them. I like thighs because they're also an easy meat and it's not like you can cook them and not overdo them and they taste really, really good. And also those garlic cloves were good. Then I also made a basically a fried rice. So I've got butter, I had rice that I had already made and I just added that with some seasoning in a pan and fried that up together. The seasoning was garlic, ginger, and coconut aminos, if I remember correctly. And then I also added to this some eggs. So I literally just crack the eggs into the pan. I don't mix them prior, I just mix them in afterwards. And I added 3 eggs to mine. Um, it just kind of depends on how big of a batch you're making. and get that all cooked down. And it's kind of like goopy. That might not sound the most appetizing, but it was really good. And then, of course, I like to add spinach to my stuff because it's an easy way to add some vegetables, some nourishment, give you that green veggie. And then you just cook that all down until it's nice and tender and soft and just yummy. And then I added ginger here. I think I hadn't added it yet, so that's why I did that at that point. And just like, look at that. It's so yummy and so good. And it paired very nicely with the thighs. So there it is. There's the meal. Literally, my husband and daughter's like one of their favorites. So here I'm making some sourdough pizza dough, and I will write the recipe in the description. But basically, it was a third of a cup of starter, 1/3 cup of olive oil, 3 cups of flour, and like a little bit of water and salt. And then I just let that sit for like a whole day, and then I fermented it overnight as well. So originally the plan was to make pizza, and I do make pizza out of this. But we came home from church on Sunday, and I'm like, you know what? I could probably make some breadsticks with this dough as well. So pizza dough and breadstick dough, I feel like you could probably interchange them. So that's what I did here. This pizza dough recipe actually makes 4 8-inch pizzas, so kind of smaller pizzas, but I basically split the dough in half, and then I used half of it to make breadsticks, and the rest of it I used to make pizza later. So once I had the dough split into 4 sections, I took one of those sections and I basically just cut little like strips, which um, they were not like even in size or probably weight, so they're not perfect. And then I took them and I basically made like little snakes. So imagine that you're playing with Play Doh and you're rolling out little snakes. That's basically what we did to get little breadsticks. And then after that, we've got them on some parchment paper. Now, I didn't do this, but this was something I'd probably recommend that if you did this with sourdough, you should probably let them rise for about another hour before baking them, but I did not. And they still turned out fine. And then basically, after we've got them all laid out, my husband made a butter and garlic topping and just put that on top of them and then dusted them with some salt as well. And then I baked these in the oven at 375 for about 18 minutes or something, 17, 18 minutes. And they turned out pretty good. They don't look like restaurant quality per se, but they were still really yummy. And then there was leftovers that we were able to use for another meal as well, which is awesome. And with the remainder of that dough, I made some sourdough pizza. This is literally, I took the dough, rolled it out, made a pizza. I put some pasta sauce that I had, and then I just shredded some Parmesan cheese on top. And then baked this at 425 for 15 minutes or so. And you just get some really yummy pizza, and like it was really good and not hard to make. So I like to kind of experiment with some flavors. So I basically made like a ground beef curry, but it's not really a curry. So it's onion, ground beef, orzo, and I used curry powder for seasoning with some other seasonings. I want to say maybe like cumin, garlic, salt, pepper, those kinds of things, and just kind of like let that cook together. I also added some milk and flour to this to kind of thicken it up a little bit so that it wasn't like completely runny. And it was yummy. It was good. And I like to just try different things. And I've been kind of interested in curry. So this has been one that's been fun to play with and just experiment with what you get. Next up, I did what would be kind of called a burger bowl, but it really wasn't a burger bowl. It was basically rice with some ground beef, onion, pickles, and cucumber. So it was kind of a hodgepodge with the rice, the ground beef, some pickles, some cucumbers, and some ranch, and just toss it all together to make a meal. But actually, it was pretty good. Last up, I've got this stir fry that I made. So this was ground beef, onion, carrots, celery. I also added eggs into this and I cooked that up. And I've got coconut aminos in there. And then I added some noodles to that as well and basically just made a little stir fry. And this was yummy. So highly, highly recommend that you try it. It's really easy. You just cut up some vegetables and put them all together with some meat and then add your noodles and whatever seasonings you really want to. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and happy Easter all.